Sway in the Morning, Shade 4-5, man. We got hip-hop royalty in here with us right now, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I think it's so important that we tell our own stories, you know, because this is one of the genres that the truth gets lost in translation, and through time it disappears, and it's almost like some of the most key moments in hip-hop history go unnoticed and unrecognized, and you don't even understand how we got to the points that we are today. Well, the group that we're going to bring up momentarily released an album 30 years ago called Critical Beatdown, and on that album, I think it kind of helped and shape and mold and give the blueprint and give the inspiration to a whole genre of music, a whole era of music, and how we produced it and how we performed over it. I'm talking about the Ultramagnetic MCs. Woo! Mo Love, TR Love, Sad G, who's here with us today, ladies and gentlemen. Cool Keith, who's back with us today, ladies and gentlemen. And they're celebrating that 30th anniversary. The actual release date was October the 4th. Was it? Or
I don't remember.
You don't remember saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't?
It was something around that time.
Around that time. That's when it came out. But
it wasn't. It was in October.
It was in October.
We had actually signed with Andre Arell and them over at Uptown Management.
And
he pushed forth the album because I don't know if a lot of y'all remember. Up to that time, we was just the king of the singles.
King of the singles. Yeah.
We just come out with a single like every other week. You know.
I remember that. Yeah.
Bait, you know, whatever. Rather play it, and it was in the stores. By the matter of fact, when it was time to do the album, what made it crazy was that if we had just put all the singles we had did, there would have been nothing new. It would have just been like a compilation. Like,
what singles did y'all put out initially before the album? You remember, Keith?
Yeah, like Funky, Traveling at the Speed of Thought. Well, Eagle Trippin' came out before the album.
Funky Potion.
Yeah, we had a lot of singles and a lot of them little promos we used to do. Remember them little promos?
Yeah, the Chuck Chill Out promo, the Awesome 2 promo, Bait with Red Alert.
So you got so Chuck Chill Out, legendary hip hop DJ out of New York City. Chuck Chill Out, good friend of mine. And who else you said? Red Alert.
Red Alert.
Legendary, like
Marley Marl. You know what's funny? We used to put out a lot of records before the album came out. Before that, before exclusives came out, we put out a lot of records before.
But the Eagle Trippin' kind of changed the trajectory of how production, you know, was being done back then. And for those who don't know, Eagle Trippin' had the synthetic substitution breakbeat that came out back in the early 70s. Was it Melvin Bliss?
Yeah. Melvin Bliss
was the artist that people sampled that song from, and then that break from, and then that break became one of the most used breaks in hip hop history. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was like what happened was we had our own little independent label that we were partnered up with someone with. And we did a record called To Give You Love, which was a great record. But, you know, we were rookies. So we had it one way where it was nice and hard. Then we went into this studio. I forgot the name of the studio, but everybody was using it. It was downtown. They had a real cheap owner. This cat. No, he was cheap. If you say your bill was $341 and you said, here's $340. He'll keep your masters and say, well, when you get the other dollar.
Oh, you talking about INS, huh?
Yeah, INS. Yeah. You get your master when you bring me. I'm serious. I'm not exaggerating. It was 50 cents. He was holding your masters.
Wow.
I'm not exaggerating. Yeah. Anybody who worked there tell you he'll hold your masters 50 cents.
Well, damn. So that was way back. That was back then.
Yeah. So what happened was, you know, we had it sounding because we originally did the track in Calliope because that's what we used to do everything, but it was something with the booking. So we just went in there, and the engineer said, "Watch what I'm gonna do to this," and he put this reverb on it, and it sound real good in the room. It sounds so good that Leor Cohen was in the other room. You remember, Keith? And Leor came and said, "You guys signed?" And it was sounding so good. We was on our ish right there.
Yeah.
We don't need you. Yeah, it's taken care of.
You said it's taken care
It
of.
was like yeah. I remember when he peeped in the room.
Yeah.
Was he with Def Jam at that time?
Yeah.
Oh man.
We didn't know who he was though.
But when we got home and listened to it,
it wasn't that good.
it was a monster.
Oh, it was
but
a
not
big
a good monster.
It was a bad monster.
It was a boogeyman.
Oh, the mixes you saying?
Yeah.
So y'all could have signed. You could have got to deal with Def Jam back in '88.
Right, yep. Right.
And that's when Def Jam was the end all, the be all, the end all.
Leor Cohen walked, stuck his head in the room. He was like, "You guys signed?" We said, "Yeah."
And you weren't signed.
No, but it was good because the record was whack anyway. The mix was whack. So that's how you start learning as producers. See, that's what I tell a lot of people. We didn't have the luxury that the kids had today, where you got your own stuff and you can do it over. We had to spend real physical money, and if when the budget was over, you had to go with what you had.
Yeah,
it wasn't no we're gonna do another mix on it. Let's take it back to the way it was. That was gone.
That was it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the music we made here that was from back then wasn't necessarily what you wanted to be the final. How did you find, like, back then? How was it that you were finding, like, the break beats? Like,
well, let me tell you. We'll finish with that story. What happened was, came out. It was disappointing. They played the record in the Latin Quarters, cleared the dance floor.
Eagle Tripping?
No, not Eagle Tripping.
The other record. Okay. I was
like the dance floor was hot. They put that on. Everybody went bathroom break, get a drink. So me and Keith, we put our heads down, went home. Was depressed. So I was at a little block party around my way. They was jamming, and the DJ threw on Substitution. And I was like, "Yo, Keith, we gotta do Substitution." Keith said, "Oh, no, I got the record, son. I'm gonna go get it." And he brought it over, and the rest is history.
And the rest is history.
And then what happened too is explain what happened in that record. We wrote our stuff, so we used to just show up to the studio. So Keith showed up with his stuff, and he came out choosing scientific matter, and I had this basic stuff. So I just had to take my papers and just like boil it up, and then I had to come in with the frequencies and data, and and that was Ultra from there.
And here it is right now, man. We're gonna open up these phone lines, man. We got questions. You got questions. This is hip hop royalty right now. Due to knowledge, 888-742-3345. Let's take them back. Critical Beatdown, man. Legendary classic album by the Ultramagnetic MCs. We got Said G is here. Cool Keith is here as well. Said G, man, a lot of times folks talk about some of the greatest producers, man, and I'd be pissed if they don't mention your name, because you had a lot to do with shape and molding how, in my opinion at least, how people kind of started, how they sampled and how they produced sampled music at that time. You also work with KRS-One, right, on the Criminal Minded album?
Yeah. Me and Scott grew up together. So Scott was like my big brother.
Okay.
So he was working at the shelter. So see, it was like my brother who passed, bless him, and the late Scott LaRock, who now has a block named after him, DJ Scott LaRock Boulevard up in the Bronx. But they had a nice little thing with a 4-track, and Keith used to come over with a partner who thought he was better than Keith, and the kid was trash.
Okay.
And then finally, I knew Keith was going to take it because I was a DJ. But I knew Keith wasn't going to take it long. But when Keith, I'm gonna get to the question. But Keith, they was doing a demo, and Keith was rapping, da da da. And the kids started singing in the back. We get around. He said, "Oh, fuck this." And that was the end of that.
That was the end of that?
Yeah, so Chris used to come up with these other cats from the shelter.
But there was a Celebrity 3.
Yeah.
That was the name of that group?
Yeah, the Celebrity 3.
Celebrity. So who was it? It was KRS-one?
Chris, this kid named Kaz. Kaz, not Kaz, but Kaz. And Jerry Levi. You know, Chris doesn't talk about them because I guess whatever happened. That's his private business. But he doesn't reference them. But the thing was weird was that, like, if Keith and his boy was over and they did a demo and he had left before I got to the crib, I didn't even know. But when the Celebrity 3 was there, they could have left 3 hours ago, and you come into your room, you go, Celebrity 3 was here, right?
Damn.
Yeah.
So what happened, they did this song called We Got to Advance, which this is what I'm saying how fate is. The same thing happened. If you heard the 4-track demo of We Got to Advance, fire. Chris murdered it. But then Sleeping Bag signed them, and they went in the same thing, and they did another mix of We Got to Advance. And if you check that version out, that was on Sleeping Bag. Trash.
Sleeping Bag was a record company at that time.
Yeah.
And if you go back and listen to like one of the remixes, I'm Still Number One, Chris says Sleeping Bag Records, you just can't trust. I'm not. And people was like, why is he saying that? Is he on Jive Records? But to your point, he's just telling the story.
Wow.
So that mix got destroyed. So Scott called me, said, "You're sad," because I was the first one to invest in a SB12. So I was like,
you gotta explain now. Said, I know it sounds crazy.
SB12 was like
a drum machine.
It was like
sampling.
It was like Christ touching the water and turning it into wine.
Yes,
it was just something nobody had in the hood.
Yeah, and couldn't afford it. Emu was making those. Yeah.
See, I got to give big up to my aunt, my deceased aunt, Mo Love's aunt, my mother, my aunt Bernice. She I needed a co-signer. She signed. Family don't do that for family.
Yeah,
don't mess up my credit. So she signed, and so I had this SB12. So Chris, Scott said, we're gonna do this with Chris because he's the dopest out of them, and they just come over and they just drop the records, boom, boom, and I just hook them up, rearrange them.
They had a production called Mastermind. He was working out the project. It's like Mastermind Productions.
Tell them how the room was decorated.
It was like, it had like aluminum foil on the wall.
It was a hood experience.
Like Christmas paper.
Yeah.
It was a hood experience.
Like shiny Christmas aluminum paper.
Yeah, you come in the room with shining.
It was like a 4-track.
Yeah.
Everybody was working on 4-track.
But you had that SB12. That was the God tool.
Yeah.
It was like
that was the holy grail.
We didn't know what 24-track was. Yeah. Everything was 4-track.
So what you have to do? Like bounce tracks?
Yeah.
You would have to? Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. The SB12. This is what made. I'm not trying to brag on them, but this is what made it brilliant. SB12 only had 1.2 seconds of sampling.
Yeah.
That's it.
You had to make a song with 1.2
I was able
seconds.
to take 1.2, and I was able to get, because I chopped, I was able to make it sound like I had a full loop in there.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing that.
Seth did everything. Bridges Over,
Yeah, I was
Minded.
On the album, you did all those tracks?
All the drum
I did
programming.
everything except my 9mm, South Bronx, 9mm. What's
Most
the other
everything else.
Yeah.
two Elementary I didn't do, and there's another one, Criminal Minded.
Criminal Minded. Okay.
Those 4 I didn't do.
So were you the first to chop up like the kick and the snare and not have like a loop like most people were using?
Yeah. No, you had other people chopping, but what I did is I broke so-called rules. Like when you went into a studio, if the snare had a guitar note on it, like bap, bink, bang, bink, the engineer be like, "Oh, you can't use that. It got the note." I'm like, "Why not?" Then I'd be like, "Watch this, boom, bink, boom, boom, bink," and they'd be like, So I was the first who started integrating like other things into it. Like you have dudes, they chop this kick and the snare. I think Marley was doing that.
Yeah.
But that was about it. Everybody else was just straight looping.
Wow.
Well, we had a dirty sound anyway. Dirty. Like real dirty. We didn't care about cleaning nothing up. It was really dirty.
It was a dirty sound, but that's what made it
like,
special though, right?
Yeah.
That texture of it. How did you develop the other thing? Because Keith, you had a style that was just so unique. That how did you develop it though? Was it always that, or did you evolve it?
Well, I just wrote to a lot of stuff. Like, we took like we was thinking about what everybody was doing. Kane was the debonair, pimp dude, and then we just looked at everybody. We was just saying we're gonna be different. So we took a sci-fi route. We're gonna put sci-fi on some hard street beats, and that's what we did. I was using all the we was using the biggest words.
How did you get your style?
Well, I was always original. I
wanted to ask you
I was watching. Well, I was always into a lot of television, a lot of science fiction stuff, and all that. I was saying, I just made things. I'll say anything. Anything I could say that sounded weird, like Silver Surfer walking around with his, on a surfboard with his dick out. I say I would, but I would put it.
Might have inspired DB.
No. I would write more stuff that people say, yo, this shit is crazy. This is crazy.
But it was not just what you said, it's how you said it. Like your
the style.
Yeah. Right?
It was different.
You chopped up, like you swam in the pocket different than anybody at that time.
To be honest, that's why I was kind of lacking back then, because I was trying to follow him. Yeah. I didn't know how to do that, but I had to try. I just did my best. It was like
well, he became more like like Pete Rock, the rapping producer.
Yeah,
that rapped on a lot of the verses. So
But your style, we talking about your style.
I just wrote this. I just wrote.
You
wild
just wrote
stuff. Yeah, I had no boundaries in my writing because I was just saying I'm not gonna sugarcoat nothing down.
Okay, but see, what I'm saying is you could have came out and rapped like.
I'm from the hood, and I see what I see.
But that's not what you did.
Yeah, I mean, we was in we was in the real grind, with living in the city, like you said, coming up Webster Avenue, and we could have easily wrote, just around the way stories, but I just blocked all of that shit out.
But how did you get to the point where you was writing, and you wasn't rhyming, but it sounded like you was rhyming?
There you go.
How did you get
well,
there?
At one time,
I always wanted to answer this way. I'm glad you went there.
Well, one time, I was like, I can't really make the words go together, so I said I'm gonna put all these shits together and then just make them ride the beat. And I was like, and then after that, I heard Special K do it with the Treacherous 3. I was like, well,
Special K.
I was like, fuck it. I was like, well, fuck it. I can get away with this if. Because I was hearing, I said, "Damn, none of these words are connecting."
Man, we got Optimus on the line from DC, celebrating Critical Beatdown 30th anniversary, Ultramagnetic MCs. Optimus, what you want to say, real quick? Go ahead.
Optimus.
All right, first thing is congratulations. Just being a part of history, you guys have been everything.
Much love.
But
thanks.
real specifically for Set G, going back to being like one of the first to, as far as the way people were chopping up samples and that style production, I always. Myself was giving props to Marley Marl as really being the first one. So can you take me through, like, for somebody like you, I guess, who was the first influence to even make you think that way and to start chopping up samples that way?
Oh, it was Marley, like I said, because he was the first to isolate the kick and the snare. But that was it. Everything else was loops. The horns were loops. See,
Would you say that, like,
the horns, like he'd take a whole note, like a, that was a note. I would just take one horn and just play something entirely different. Like, I'll give you a quick example. In the beginning of Break North, that dun 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 dun. P.E. sampled it on their Greatest Hits and Miss records, and there was a sample clearance problem. But Lior, once again, thought that was a loop. I'm like, no, Lior, you ain't gonna find that on a record.
Yeah,
that's not.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you do the Papa Large beat as well? Was that you?
No, Beat Miners did that. Beat Miners did that. We did the original, but what happened with the original was that Keith brought the Prince Bat Dance record over to me, and I rearranged and chopped up the samples. And when we took it to Prince for clearance, he wanted not 90%, not 99%, but he wanted 100% of the publishing. So we was like, hey, let somebody else do the beat. You know, you just down. I ain't, because it was a smash with that. Yeah. That's how we got signed to Mercury. It was the Papa Lodge, and a record that we didn't put on the album because Tim Westwood had burned it out in London called MC Champions. He bootlegged it. So we left it off the album.
Optimus, thanks for your call. You're a citizen, man.
Sway in the morning.
Man, let's. We got Witness from Tampa on the line. What you want to say, Witness? Good morning.
Hey.
Yo, peace, y'all. Yeah, I wanted to see if you guys could touch on working with Paul C. I know he had some like techniques that he used in the studio that I've read where he used a lot of panning. I read something about sampling, spoon sounds and this and that. But I wanted to see if you had anything to share about as far as working with him.
Okay, it's a two-part question because Keith had a separate working relationship with Paul C. So he's gonna tell you.
No, I mean, I work with him. He did do a lot of panning. He, I know one thing. He stayed up all night. We used to leave the studio 6 a.m. We did our sessions was 9 at night to like 7 in the morning. We'd be coming home. People going to work. Said got an SB12 in his hand, and Trevor got one
on the train.
So definitely, he was definitely a workhorse. He was the first man I thought like. I remember when I did Ease Back, and he looked at me and said, "Do that over again." You know me as an Eagle rapper, I'm like somebody telling me to do my raps over again.
Yeah.
And he said, "No, you can do that better." I did it again, but I was like, that's one thing he was always on me about doing the lyrics over.
What song was that?
Ease
Back.
And, yeah.
30 seconds to respond.
Yeah.
We did this. We did this.
This
live.
was, this was on
planned.
This was on rotation every day. This one
right here.
Yeah, every day.